Go ahead. It's all you.
Thank you very much for the intro. Hello, everybody. My name is Brad Williams, one of the managing partners here at TradeIdeas. Kind of the theme for the Wednesday Q&A webinar is kind of that 50-50. We always seem to get kind of a half and half mix of subscribers and non-subscribers, so it leaves me a little bit open in the presentation to go over some of the basics of the tech, but this is really an interactive webinar, so if you guys have any questions, please use that question panel to type it in. I'll try to be looking at it in the first part of the presentation, but I'll certainly give it my attention in the latter half of it as I complete the demonstration of the software. Let's just kind of hit it rolling here. Start off with our disclaimer. TradeIdeas is a software company. We are not a registered investment advisor, so please don't take any of the symbols, stocks, securities that I'm talking about today as investment advice. There may be some very interesting opportunities that present itself, but I'm not telling you guys to buy or sell any securities, just talking about our technology and how it's used to identify these opportunities in real time as they're happening. TradeIdeas, I just actually updated this slide. You know, we're about a month away from having been in business for 17 years. So it's quite a long time to be focusing specifically on what we do. We have created a platform which is encompassing a lot of different tools, but they all focus on one thing. They all focus on idea generation. What stocks should you be trading now? What stocks are moving? We do look at every single stock on every single time frame, and using that technology that we've created, we have the ability to deliver these extraordinary moves that are happening in real time before, you know, they're extraordinary, before they've moved 20% and 30%, and at the end of the day, you're looking back going, wow, what an incredible move. How come I wasn't aware of that? Well, this is software that's used in real time to find these things as they're happening. And we use some techniques to do that. Of course, we ingest regular market data, but we take that market data and we do some really interesting things with it. We've got some great tech that allows us to do all of this in real time. So as we're ingesting all of this market data, we're writing and creating new data points in real time. So for instance, as stocks are trading and moving up, there's a certain amount of volume that's taking place cumulative to that point in time. There's a certain amount of volume that's taking place on that 1 minute candle, the 5 minute candle. We're keeping what we call statistical benchmarks on all of those. So like I said earlier, we know what's normal, and when something abnormal starts to happen, when something starts to trade a lot more than normal, when something starts to move a lot more than normal, well, then we can bring that to you through a variety of different window containers that we've created that allow this data to be highlighted. So like I said, it's a full platform. We ingest data, we create data, we display data, but we allow you to create strategies with this platform. We have what we started off with, an alert window, which is an event-based notification system, and we brought it all through backtesting, through automation, AI, machine learning. So we've done all of this and incorporated it into the platform, and hopefully I'll have enough time to walk you through some of that here today. The final piece that we've done to our puzzle here is we brought in strategy execution to it. So once you get that idea, you're going to want to execute on that idea, and either using our direct connection to interactive brokers to get that order to the market, or using our external linking connection to update your brokerage platform, you're really just a click or two away from being able to spot an event in TradeIdeas and then execute it out into the market. So let's get going. Let's take a look at some of the different windows that we have. I'll just be brief through this. This is the alert window I was talking about. I'll break it out into the software and I'll show you really how it works. Our top list window, denoted by the T in the upper left-hand corner, gives you a ranked list of stocks. It updates every 30 seconds, and it allows you to manipulate this window through sorting and through different color coding that's present here. Additionally, our MultiStrategy Window is kind of like our alert window on steroids. It allows you to really save your real estate, your desktop space, by incorporating numerous different alert windows, all encompassing its own unique strategy, all into a single window container. So you can have 20 different strategies, all looking for different things, bullish things, bearish things, stocks that are trading on light volume, low volume, all these different parameters, and you can dump it into a single window and have it all color coded. So when one of those events occurs, you're going to see it and be able to click on it and make your trading assessment. couple other windows. We created charting because you need to be able to visualize this, and we've really brought in a lot of interactivity into the charting. We've created a compare count. It's like a horse race where you can put two different strategies in there and see in real time how those strategies are progressing. Is it a bullish environment? Is it a bearish environment? Either cumulative from the beginning of the day or anytime you want to start it. You know, midday, you want to start it and see from this point, how is it going? And then we've got a deep dive window. We call it our single stock window, but it's fully customizable like any of the other components here. But you can bring in any of the filtered data points that we monitor, bring it right into this window here so you can have complete visibility into the data points and really any of the data set that we have, you can have visibility into it right here. And you can do it through the top list in the alert window too by bringing in various columns, but this really does give you that single stock look. And we've made some enhancements to it lately. We've brought in some insider activity to it. We have plans to bring some additional functionality. If you go to the website, the latest beta should have that functionality in it. So please check that out. Price alerts, really an instrumental component of the TradeIdeas platform. In addition to all the alerting and lists that you can have, you can do some very simple pattern recognition here by setting thresholds, and you can just set the thresholds on the chart, and when once you set that threshold, when the stock price crosses it, it'll go ahead and alert you to that event. And we have some great plans with respect to this functionality as well in bringing in some more mobile and other notification techniques to this. The Oddsmaker, our event-based backtesting tool, we developed this about 10 years ago. It's a little bit different than most sets of backtesting where you take a single symbol, say something like Apple, and go back 10 years and see how you could best trade that stock. This takes something a little different. It's a strategy. So you create a strategy and then determine how to best create that strategy and then how to best execute it. And you can set up all these different parameters from hold time, profit target, stop loss, and of course the strategy itself. And once you've had that all set up, you just run the backtester and it'll tell you exactly how you would have done had you performed the same set of instructions every time there was a signal. And we've taken this technology and we've ported it over to our machine learning AI using the backtester. It doesn't use the interface, but it uses the mathematics behind it to be able to optimize strategies on a daily basis and deliver those to you, so that as you're sitting there in real time, we're offering you, in addition to being able to set this all up yourself, we're offering you trade ideas based on statistics and backtesting. And I'll go over that a little bit today. Well, I guess I should have waited to this slide. This slide is illustrating the AI in addition to Brokerage Plus, which is our automation tool or our execution tool. For the subscribers of the AI that have the premium subscription and have paid for the automation, you can use Brokerage Plus to automate the machine learning AI strategies as well. So let's just kind of, I think that's my last slide on the software. So let's throw that out and let's bring in TradeIdeas. So right now I don't have any layout, I just have the toolbar. Hopefully you're not going to get started like that, but if you do, you can just come up here, go to new, and these are the different windows. Now I'm in the development mode, so I've got a lot more options than you would, but these options here with the icon next to it are windows that you can pull up. So if I bring in, let's say, an alert window, this was our first introduction into the idea generation. Let me go ahead and start it from scratch. So I'm just going to double click the start from scratch, and I'm going to explain this little window component, because if you understand this particular section, you're going to understand how all the windows really work. So we're starting from scratch, and in the alert window, I have a bunch of tabs up at the top right here. If we just go to the second tab, or the third tab rather, the select alerts, this is where I can define the event that I want to look at. Right now, there's really nothing in this window, but if I select the add defaults, I'm going to get a variety of choices. They're not all here though, and you can go to the search tab and see exactly what's available inside of TradeIdeas. So if you just scroll down, you can make yourself aware of what alerts we have available. And if you go about 50% of the way down and you see the icons change colors here, these are the filters. So an alert window is really a combination of alerts, one or more alerts, and filters, one or more filters. You don't need any filters, but let me show you how it works. So let's just go to select an alert, and I'm going to start off with a new high. It's after hours, so not a lot's going to happen. So let's do this. Let's do a post-market high. And let's go ahead and add that alert. So now I'm set up with a post-market high and a new high. These are my two alerts that I have set up. I don't have any filters, so it's completely wide open. I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to say new highs. All right, so now I just have a window that's going to be sitting here looking for new highs, whether it's regular new highs during the market or post-market new highs. So we'll just kind of stretch this out. Okay, so probably it's going to be a little bit slower than if you were watching it during the market, but you can see it update. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some filters to it to make it a little bit more meaningful. So if I go over to the filters tab, and I can add my defaults here. I'm going to have some defaults, but remember, I'm not going to have them all. If I wanted to have them all, I could come here, scroll down, and see everything that I have. But for the purpose of this, let's just set a couple filters. This is just to show you how it works. So let's say I'm going to trade stocks between let's say $50. I only want to trade stocks that on average, and this is average here is a 3-month average, on average, do at least 250,000 shares a day. Relative volume, one of my favorite filters, this is keeping track of volume at this point in time. Not really post-market, but it runs throughout the day. So in the morning, it knows what's normal volume. Afternoon, it knows, how that volume tapers off, and then at the end of the day, how it picks up. So it keeps track of all that. Relative volume, if I put in a value of, say, something like 1.5, well, it needs to be doing 150% of normal, and that's the value right there. So it's a ratio. And I could do a bunch of other things. Maybe I want the stock up today. Maybe I want it up 50 cents and 1%. So it has to satisfy all of these criteria for this new high or new post-market high to work. So now we'll set it up like this, and it's going to go much slower. The last event came in. We're not going to sit and wait for it. The last event came in 6 minutes ago. The other one was ticking regularly. So now if I do this, and one more thing I'll bring in, you can really customize the display as well. So let's come here and let's do relative volume. I'm going to take that filter and I'm going to add it as a column so I can see that data point come through here when the line item appears. So now I'm looking at relative volume. I've got price. Maybe I want change from the close. Change from the close. And so I'm going to do both. I'm going to bring in the dollar and the percent. And let's go ahead and add those as a column. So now I'm customizing the display to where I have this information. Another thing I can do, I'm going to duplicate this window, move it to the side, and while this left window comes in real time, I'm going to take this and I'm going to look at a historical query of it. So let's just look at it today. There's going to be a lot more events. This is something that as we move to 1 o'clock here, which was the market close on the West Coast, you're going to then start to just see a tremendous amount of new results because now we're looking at new highs that are happening in the market. So I was able to bring in the historical view, able to bring in some column data so that now this information that's coming through is a little bit more meaningful. And then the color coding that we have. So there's special color coding that's available on certain columns, and you can always customize the color coding yourself. If I was to go ahead and, well, this is not a top list, but let's go ahead and do this. So now I took this alert window. You really wouldn't want to do it, but I'm illustrating this for the color coding aspect of it. I created a gradient color, and you can see here, it's better illustrated in a top list, but you can see here that the higher the relative volume, the darker blue it's going to be. And the same effect that we put over here on the change from the close percentage. The further up it's for the day, or the more down it is for the day, it's going to have a darker color. In the case of being down, it would be a darker red. And you can get to that by right-clicking. See, everything here in the software is right-click context sensitive. So when you're bringing up a menu, if you right-click in an area, it'll give you the options that are pertinent to that area that you're right-clicking, or that window that you're right-clicking on. So if I do it here up in the column header, I can customize the colors, and this is how we have it set up. We've got a gradient set up with a few different breakpoints. So I have 5 different breakpoints, 0, 3, 10, and then the invert variance, and then I've assigned color. So let me show you what happens here. Let's go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to take this window and I'm going to duplicate it one more time. And now I'm going to go back into configure, and a little trick we have at inverting this. Right now, remember, I made this so that we're looking for new highs. The stock has to be up, what is it, 50 cents or a percent, or and a percent. And this is price and volume. But if I hit this flip button right here, it's going to invert the whole thing. So it's going to invert the alerts into new lows. It's going to keep the volume and the price the same, but it's going to take the change from the close and invert that. So now what I'd want to do is I'd say new lows. I'll change the name and hit OK. And so now I have kind of the inverse view of that. If I was to run a history and go to today, you're going to see the color coding. That's what I really wanted to point out, was the color coding. But relative volume stayed the same because it doesn't really change if you're flipping it. So just something to know. So that's our alert window. Let me talk a little bit about our top list window. Again, we have in the strategies tab right here, I've got a bunch of pre-configured strategies. You know from it, and I'll bring in our channel bar and show you how we can maneuver around different workspaces. But inside of an individual window, you can get to the different pre-configured setups right through here. So if I wanted to say, look for gainers over the last 5 minutes or 15 minutes, let's do something like that. Let's load this and hit OK. So now it's looking post-market, and it's looking for things that happen to be moving over a 15-minute period of time, and it's giving me that indication. So that's one way you can use a top list. I'll show you through some channels, but if I was to bring in, say, another one, you know, everybody kind of understands that, like the daily gainers, this is what we get. We get a list of stocks, right? This happens to be the stocks that have moved the most for today in a percentage basis right here. I could sort it here on a dollar value, and these have all moved the most on a dollar value. It's a little bit hard to explain. I'm going to go into the configure window here, and I'm doing that because I want to go to this sort tab right here. This is really what makes the TradeIdeas top list different than all the other lists that you see. So what we're doing here is we're bringing in a server sort. This is what we call our server sort. So the stocks that are coming into this window, that are going to be present in this window, are all going to be the highest change from the close percentage. So when I'm in this window, I have nothing but the highest change from the close percentage. When I sort on these other values, I'm not introducing new symbols into this universe. I'm just sorting this universe based upon this header. So if I wanted to do something a little bit different, I could go ahead and duplicate this window, come over here and change my sort order to change from the closed dollars. And this is going to give me probably a lot of overlap, but it's going to be looking more to the more expensive stocks, because these stocks will typically move more just because it's not as big of a percentage to do that. But there is going to be some overlap. I see SNX here. And so just an interesting way to look at the data. The range is something that I'd like to point out. The position in range is a pretty powerful filter or data point for sorting. So this is taking a look at the stock and letting you know where is it right now in relationship to its intraday high and low. And we've got this on a variety of different time frames, whether it's intraday or multiple weeks, even a year, or even its lifetime. So graphically, we can tell exactly where that stock is trading in relationship to those different periods. Little trick for you guys to know, if I right click inside of one of these position and range icons and go to property, I can uncheck this graphical indicator, and it's going to give me the value. And the reason why the value is important is because this is also available as a filter. So for instance, if I go into configure here and go into position and range, let's do something a little different. Let's go into the filter here, and let's say I do not want to see anything right now that's in the top 5% of its range. So it's pulled off the highs a little bit. So let's just put that one filter in there, and if we hit OK here, now you're not going to see any position in range that's above the 95 value that we put in. That would work whether you were looking at the graphical indicator or not. So that's why there's that interrelationship between the data points that you see here and the filters that are in the software. I wanted to filter things that didn't move up at least 2%, I could do that, and all of these stocks that have moved less than that or less than $2 would not be visible. So let's get rid of, those are the two most, if you understand those two windows, you're going to really be able to navigate around the software. So let's go ahead and bring in a channel bar. The channel bar really allows you to hit the ground running. It allows you to get some value out of the software without knowing all the nuances of it, knowing how to configure it and all the details of it. We've set up these different workspaces so you can peruse through it and take a look. Let's start off with something like pre-market, where you might start at the beginning of the day. So we've got these different windows that are already set up for you. You can go ahead and take anything that we've done and modify it to your liking. Maybe you don't trade stocks that are under $2. Maybe you don't trade stocks that on average trade less than 500,000 shares a day. I mean, these are your preferences, and it's really set up for you to be able to customize it. You can customize the software by saving it to your cloud and then creating a custom channel. So if I just went into this channel right here, and I'll just make a quick change here. Let's just go to the filters and say I only want to trade stocks that are at least $5. And I do that to each one of these windows here. And this right here is a multi-strategy window. If you right-click in here and you go to strategies, you can see that there are 4 different unique strategies inside of this one window. But I can come here and I could go to configure all, and I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to edit the selected, and in this case right here, I'm going to say the minimum has to be $5. Now, the reason why some of these are grayed out right here is because I've got values, different values for different strategies. But I don't care because I don't want to look at anything below $5. So I'm just going to put that in there. And now if I was to run a history or clear it out, nothing will come in that's under that $5 mark. Once you've set up your layout the way that you want it, just go right click, save or share to cloud, select the entire layout. I have a couple windows that are hidden over on my right monitor, so you know that's okay. I'm going to select the entire layout, and I'm going to call this my custom pre-market channel. And it doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now I've saved it to my cloud. I'm going to come up here to the gear at the channel bar, edit the channels. I'm going to add a channel. I could incorporate and bring in my own image if I wanted to, or I could use something that I've already got out of the box. Let's call this my pre-market. And let's then go ahead and select from the cloud. Oh wait, before I do that, I want to go ahead and write it. So that shows up down here. Now let's select it from the cloud. It's going to be the last one that I saved up at the top right here. You scroll over, you've got date, and you've got the components of it. It's a layout. It has 9 windows. So we're going to select that, and let's just hit select. It populates it right here, and I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to apply. So now I've got a new channel right here. If I was to continue maneuvering around, looking at different workspaces here, this happens to be my like channel. Anything that I heart through the chart is going to appear here in this particular channel. But now if I go back to my pre-market, I'm going to come here, and this is the pre-market with the $5 minimum. Why didn't that work? $5. Oh, gotcha. It worked. I was thinking I set the $5 gap minimum, but no, I set a $5 price minimum, so that worked out fine. So let's look through some of the other channels. The Alpha Predator is a good channel because there's always something happening on this particular channel. The market could be getting beaten up. It could be at a flat line, but if you come here, there's always something moving. So it's finding those outliers through here. If I go to this, I'm going to scroll down to one of the bottom channels here, active trading, more of a complex type of a workspace because I've got a lot of different windows. I've got a multi-strategy with like 20 different independent, unique ideas set up into it to look for. So it's mining through those 20 different strategies. I've got a very active alert window that's looking for volume. So if I come in here, if you never know what these windows are doing, it's just a right-click configure to come and see what it's doing. So I've got a new high alert. You can go to the summary. Might be a little easier. a new high alert. The stocks are at least $5. Distance from the inside market's no more than 0.2%. And what's that saying is that I don't care. This is a great filter because let me just kind of go to it. I'm going to left click on it, and it's going to take me right to the filter where I can make a change. I could also go to this show me right here, get a little bit more information about it. So right here, distance from the inside market. This is a great filter to avoid any type of bad print, because if you've been watching the market long enough, you're going to look at a chart and go, wow, look at that print. That's way out of the inside bid and ask. That's something that's like a bad print, right? But bad prints and prints really happen. So how do you avoid something like that from triggering a strategy? Well, you can use this distance from the inside market to ensure that it's at least a certain distance from the bid and the ask. So as I was saying, it can't be more than 0.2% away from the ask if I'm going long in this particular case here. So these windows down at the bottom, these top lists. So we've got some volume radar right here. This is a really great way to take the way that we look at volume. We do it on all different time frames and factors, where we can look at it on the 1 minute, on the 5 minute, on the 30 minute, the relative volume. We can look at it on an average basis. You know, so we've got all these different metrics that we use for volume. I also have a volume channel, so if you scroll down, I'm not going to click on it yet, but if you scroll down, a lot of different ways that we analyze volume on that channel there. But these two windows here, these two top lists down at the bottom, I'll just make a little bit bigger. Okay, so these right here, this is kind of a non-standard way to take a top list. As I was showing you earlier, we can see, okay, the biggest winners, the biggest losers. We can get that list of stocks, but it's that multivariate sort that allows you to do what we're doing here in this window here, where we're taking a look in this window at the stocks that are really down for the day. They've been beaten up. They're just losers for the day. But what's happening and what's bringing them to our attention is the fact that over the last 30 minutes, and I could bring in different time frames, but over the last 30 minutes, these stocks have moved up. Now this stopped here. I've got these windows stopping at the market close, so they're not continuing to update, but that's all something that you can do, and you can change that. So if you go to right click and you go to time frame, you can set that so that it's looking at either just market hours, always, or even a historical point. Maybe I want to go back and say, how did this window look an hour before the close? And you can do that too, just like you can run the history in the alert window. So over here, we're just doing it just a flip. So you can take a window like this and flip it, and you'll get this biggest pullbacks on the winners. So these guys are all doing incredibly well today. You're going to look back and say they were phenomenal, but maybe this opportunity was an opportunity to get long again on these pullbacks. So not as interesting after hours, but during the market, it's pretty interesting to watch. If you're ready for a seizure, you may want to go to channel 4. Channel 4 is just a great little way to seek out different windows that we put together. I don't think this is really a great way to use the channel right here by keeping it all up, but if you find something that you like, you can just drag it out, set it up the way that you want it, right click and pin it. So now essentially when I go ahead and move to a different channel, that window is going to remain. So that's what we call pinning. And you could go through a variety of different channels to find multiple windows that you want to create your own independent workspace. And that's what most people do. Is ultimately they're creating a variety of workspaces that work for them and their own trading style. And we're giving you just a bunch of different ways to show you how to configure the software using different themes, using different techniques. And up until now, we're kind of looking at the entire universe of stocks and just filtering it based on the filters that we have and notifying based on the alerts. But there's a whole nother technique that you can have, and that's with symbol lists. So for instance, I could only monitor a channel or a window or a workspace on a particular list of stocks or a particular portfolio of stocks. So a couple different ways that you can use the software, and that's really what the My Liked symbols is doing here. It's really just using a list of stocks that you put together by hearting. It basically adds it to that list, and then it's visible inside of the My Liked channel. And there's some other analysis we have plans to do with this, but but it has kind of taken a back burner to what we've been most recently working on, which is our paper trading. So I apologize. I haven't even been looking at the questions. I've just been kind of rambling on. So I'm going to kind of take a quick peek here. It looks like Barry's been answering these guys. So hey, yeah, if you have any questions that haven't been answered, you can fire them off now, and I'll be sure to take a look. Let me bring in this window right here. So Stephen, I do not have any plans in the future. It's probably not going to go that way because we have a lot of other plans that we're doing. We do not have any plans of bringing in any type of level 2 analysis, either from a visual perspective or doing any type of alerting off of that. Too much discretionary trading takes place, too many hidden orders to put that much credibility in level 2. I'm not saying don't use it, because to each his own, and whatever assists you in determining the market is going to be beneficial. That's fine, but we don't really have any plans of incorporating anything off of that. Yeah, Anthony, you're exactly right. I added the high because that was what was there initially, and I didn't even think about it being post-market, and that's why I went after the fact and added the post-market. But you know, when you're creating something, a window like that, it doesn't necessarily hurt you to if you're creating a new high window, to add the pre-market high, to add the post-market high, to add the regular market high. That way you have all three flavors depending upon the time frame that you're looking at. So JJ, what type of computer do you need to run the software? Yeah, and we do have a web-based version which will work on your Apple, absolutely. But the most robust portion of our software is now done through the application, which is a Windows-based tool. We are bringing the web-based version really up to speed and bringing in all the functionality that we have on the application. We don't have plans at this point to bring in Brokerage Plus into the web-based version, but we are, as we speak, finalizing and completing the price alerts inside of the web-based version. So that's something that we're working on. So Joe, yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Holly, and that's what I'll do right now. I'm going to talk about the backtesting real briefly, which really leads into Holly, and this happens to be one of the strategies that triggered today. Mighty Mouse was offered to the users of the AI. I believe it was offered in 2 different segments. These were the results today. If I run a history of this window today, there are just a few signals that occurred. So really just 3, a couple duplicates. But let's run a back test of it. And this is kind of where the benefit resides. So let's first talk about it. Let's the entry. This is letting me know when can I possibly initiate a position in this particular strategy. So Mighty Mouse, it's a strategy that's looking at more inexpensive stocks in a bullish sentiment. So something moving up that's relatively inexpensive. Not trading the first 15 minutes of the market. We end at 1 o'clock here in California. I'm not trading the last half hour of the market. I could have a position on, but I'm not initiating anything during that time. I'm going to hold this position, or I'm going to attempt to hold this position for 60 minutes. That doesn't mean I have to get out at 60 minutes, so let me explain that right away. This is the way that we create a back test, the way that we can define the success of a strategy. If after 60 minutes we're positive as a trader, you're empowered to make these decisions. How's the market? You know, what's going on with this sector? How is this stock performing? How resilient is it? All of these things really need to be thought of before making that decision. Should I stay in this? Should I get out of it? Should I take some off the table? But that's what makes you the trader. I'm going to attempt to stay in it for 60 minutes. I am going to attempt to get a profit of $2. If I get a profit of $2, I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to take the profit off the table. And I'm going to use the Smart Stop as the filter. The Smart Stop is a custom algorithm that we created based on the stock's volatility, based on its relative volume, and based on its range for the day. So those 3 factors come together to create a Smart Stop value. So that's what I'll get out. If it's 25 cents, if I lose 25 cents, then that's where I exit the position. The advanced tells it how many days you can test. We go up to 64 trading days, so that's 3 months, that's a quarter of data. This columns in result, I use all available columns, and I'll show you why. And let's go ahead and simulate the buy. So now it's going to the server, it's taking a look at the strategy, running a history, looking at the market and saying every time that that signal occurred, if you would have bought it, held it for 60 minutes, didn't get stopped out or sold at your $2 profit target, how would you have done? And so this is my equity curve. These are my data points. Data points give me information like my profit factor, which is the sum total of all the winning trades over the sum total of all the losing trades. Maybe I made $3,620 and maybe I lost $1,000. Well, that would give me a profit factor of 3.62. The total trades in the sample set over the 30 trading days that I had this analysis done, just about 65%. It's a pretty good percentage. The average winner to average loser, just about twice the average winner to average loser. That's pretty good. You know, remember, these are cheap stocks. So when something's moving 13 cents and it's a super cheap stock, that's a good move. And then it's letting you know what kind of buying power would you need to be able to implement this particular strategy. I started off with a $50,000 account, and that doesn't really matter. What do I need to implement it based upon putting in $2,500 for every trade, $2,500 worth of stock, and my commission's $1 plus it's it's a penny a share. So that is my my breakdown, and that provides me this equity curve right here, where I've got my gross equity curve up at the top, and then we start calculating commissions into the picture, and that's how it looks over the period of time. The calendar here lets me dive into any particular day, see exactly what symbols were suggested, the entry, exit, and how you would have profited based upon this value right here. And you could do $2,500 per trade, or you could do 100 shares per trade, or whatever, anywhere in between that you want to do. So that's the foundation, but the real power right here is this optimization tab. So I go to the optimization tab, we're looking at a variety of different data points. Here we're looking at price. So we break down price into these different 40-cent intervals. I could change that to, I don't know, 60-cent intervals. It's going to give me fewer segments here. If I change it into 10-cent intervals, not 10-cent intervals, I'm going to get more segments here. But essentially, we're just breaking the segments down and saying, okay, how'd you do in each one of these segments? How was your win percentage? What was your average winner? How many trades made up that segment? So it doesn't make sense to break segments down into this small of an amount, but I'm just kind of highlighting it for you. Okay, so that's price, time of day. You know, when should you be trading this particular strategy? When are you successful? When are you not successful? Maybe if I stop trading this at 9 o'clock my time, then I'd avoid, you know, this negativity right here. Maybe that's something to consider. Maybe if I stop trading at 7:30, this is where the sweet spot really is. So that's the information that's conveying here, and we do the very same thing with all the different filters that we have in the software. So if I hit the other filters and scroll down here, you're going to see all the filters that we have in the software. So if we say like change 120 minutes percentage, well, this is telling me that the stock had moved down 15% over the last 120 minutes. This moved down between 5 and 10% over the last 120 minutes. And so this is, you know, how it performed. You're not going to see a lot of red in a strategy like this because this strategy was optimized by our AI yesterday. This was a strategy that was presented to the users today. And this is how it looks. So let's clear this out, and let's just go to one of the AI channels. This is Holly 2.0. We have 3 different AI channels, and we have a channel called Omni AI, which really brings all 3 of these different segments together into a single channel. This is a little bit easier to talk about just because there are fewer trades, and this contained the Mighty Mouse strategy. So what you see over here on the left are the different strategies offered to the users at the beginning of the day. We have no idea what symbols will be triggered, if any, out of these different strategies, because essentially all the filters have to line up and be adhered to, and then the event has to take place. And so Mighty Mouse happened to be the most successful of these strategies today. It had 3 trades. So this visual display right here is calculated off of, if I go to Tools, Options, the AI trade size, that's what's giving you the relative value here. So for me to have made $1,000 on these 3 trades in Mighty Mouse, I would have had to have committed $5,000 per trade. You know, if I only wanted to trade, say, $2,500 per trade, I could do that, and everything else will adjust accordingly. So I just cut that in half. So that's how that's determined. But there are a couple other ways to base this on. It's not just your dollars per trade. You know, there was the shares per trade that we talked about, but then there's another option which is risk-based on stop loss. So every one of these strategies has a stop loss in it. So if it goes down a certain amount on a long or up a certain amount on a short, it's going to stop you out. And using this value right here is pretty convenient because you can say, I only want to lose a maximum of $50 if I get stopped out. So it'll take a look at where that stop is. It'll take a look at the stock price and determine how many shares you should buy or sell to make it so that is your risk factor. And if you come over here, over on the trades, you can see that there are different sizes here based upon that to give me that $50 risk. So the AI, it creates, well, it doesn't create, it optimizes these different strategies every day. There are about 50 different strategies. Probably 2/3 of them are long, 1/3 of them are short. Goes through those strategies every day. It uses the techniques in the Oddsmaker optimization area to look at the different filters that are set up in each one of these strategies, and it looks to see whether it should modify it, change it, not do anything. And then it does another optimization. It does another Oddsmaker run to see what's the profitability. And after all this is done, after all these strategies have been optimized, well, they then have to compete against each other to determine only the best of the best for the next day. So only the strategies that have a certain profit factor, that have a certain win percentage, that have a certain win-loss ratio will then be presented to the user the next day. And some of these strategies, this downward dog, this nickelback, yesterday's hammer, today's strength, just never found the trade today. Everything didn't line up for that strategy to trigger an event. So we're keeping track of the P&L from the beginning of the day here, and we keep track of the P&L on a variety of different time frames. So we have, I don't know if they're time frames, but they're different modes. We have what we call a risk-off profit level, we have a risk-on profit level, and we have a full risk. So let me explain them real quick, and let's see if we can do that with this stock right here. Okay, so MCF. Try to make it a little bit bigger here so we can kind of dive into it. And let's just zoom into today. So the beginning of the day here, this is when the signal was called. It was late in the day, 11:22 my time. So it was, I'm sorry, that's the exit time. So it was called at 10:22 right here. And this is the candle. You can see the blue arrow pointing to the candle. You can see the $2 AI signal letting you know exactly where in that candle the trigger event happened. So meandered here for about 10 minutes, didn't do a whole lot, went down a little and up a little and just kind of hung and then started creeping up. Well, at the expiration of that hour, it exited because of the timed exit. Remember, this was a 1 hour hold, if we can hold it. Like I said, that doesn't mean you need to exit. If you kind of look at the spiders here next to me, this is, let me just zoom into today. So this is the market open. This is pre-market session, the market open. And the spiders did nothing but really just kind of creep up all day, stayed above its moving average, and just kind of kept moving. So using that maybe as your guide, you could say, all right, I don't need my stop to be at $1.75 anymore, which is pretty big. I don't know that I would have ever let it go that far down, but you don't need it to be there anymore. This is where you can start moving your stop up to protect yourself if you're live in this position. So different ways to approach it. You don't need to exit entirely. And if you take a look as it progressed through the end of the day, it really finished on highs. If we look at the daily chart, it sure does look pretty interesting. You know, from this perspective, this is where the entry was and this is where it closed. So even though this strategy was optimized for 60 minutes, doesn't mean you need to get out after 60 minutes. It doesn't mean you need to get out at the end of the day. These are choices that you as a trader really are left to make, to your own. You have to understand what is your risk tolerance. Obviously, keeping something during the day and having the ability to get in and out of it is a lot easier. Well, I don't know if it's easier, that's the wrong word, but you can protect yourself more than an overnight hold, which perhaps there's going to be a gap one way or another. So a lot of that also depends on size. Maybe someone's trading a lot more size during the day where they can not be a victim of some big gaps and they have the ability to get out very quickly, but maybe holding that's something that you don't do with quite as much leverage. And so again, this is something that you would need to decide, but these are the different profit factors that we have. And so we have another one called risk on, and risk on, I'm not going to be able to differentiate risk on from full risk too easily here, but risk on is essentially saying, I want to hold this position to the end of the day. That's my goal here. And so that's keeping track of your risk on profit. Very similar to full risk, but the difference is that if I have a stop in there and that stop got hit, well, that's where I'm out. So let's say it actually hit the stop down here and I ended up losing $300 or $200. Well, it would stay there at down $200 even if the market came all the way back. And that's the difference between risk on and full risk. Full risk doesn't care about your stops. It's going to keep track of the profit level of that stock no matter what. So if it goes down, if it goes up, it's never going to get stopped out. So we're giving you these indications not to tell you which one to do, but to let you understand how the market is behaving right now. In aggregate here in this one segment in Holly 2.0, risk on happened to be the best one. So using what was it that I set up, $250,000 or $2,500 per trade. This was the profit level of this particular segment. Risk on was the best. And you can toggle the different profitabilities by just going through them right here. So if we go to the Omni AI channel, this is where it's going to bring in the aggregate of them all. So right now, the difference between the different segments is I have different strategies in different segments. So I have some more risky strategies in the Neo segment. Holly Grail hasn't changed a whole lot since we brought her out. Holly 2.0, we've added a few strategies. We've changed a few stop parameters. And Holly Neo, again, just some different strategies. We do have, well, I don't want to say formal plans, but we are going to be redoing this a little bit where we're going to be bringing in all the segments of one type into one channel and other segments like maybe a swing channel segment into another one where we're looking at longer term possibilities. Even though some of these shorter term ideas can turn into longer term trades, we're optimizing them on different time frames. So look to that change coming in the future where we're going to be changing up the segments a little bit. But so right here in the Omni AI channel, this is where I've got a variety of different segments all in one single grid. So these are all the trades today from all the segments. If I was to right click and go to columns, bring in segment as a column, hit OK. Just going to stretch it out a smidge here, and you can see these are the different segments. And you can sort on any of these. So if you want to see the different segments and what trades happened in them, you can do that as well. So that is our AI. Let's see what else we got here. All right, well. So yeah, Donovan, the Mighty Mouse strategy is available to you through the AI. I can't share these because the reason is that this will change and is subject to change tomorrow. So for instance, if Mighty Mouse presented itself tomorrow, there's a good possibility that all the filters are not going to be exactly the same. And that's how we avoid the degradation of a strategy and keep the most current information, the most current data set incorporated into its optimization. Anthony, there is no printed user manual, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons is we've debated on that. I mean, there is a printed user manual, but it's got to be about 5 or 6 years old. We really developed a continuous development effort. We're always updating and modifying the strategy. You can find a lot of the updates to what we've done on our YouTube page and through user videos. We try to make everything pretty context sensitive so that when you right click on something, you're only presented with the options that you have. But no, I don't have an up-to-date user manual. So how to flip your layout from a new channel and back, and that's just really utilizing the custom channels up here, where you go ahead and save your channel to a layout. You know, save, just right-click into it, save it to the cloud, do the entire layout, and just create a channel up here. Then anytime you go back and forth, you can bring it up. Another option is if you have a second monitor or a third monitor, you can always take a variety of windows and keep them static on one monitor, have them pinned, and on another monitor or another area of your window space, have your channel and be able to peruse different channels. So, and Anthony, there really is no downside to the multi-strategy window. I guess if I was to say there was a downside, it would be just the setting up of it. Like for instance, if I go into bring in a multi-strategy window, let me show you how you do it, right? So you just take this strategy here. It has to be an alert window that you're bringing over. I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna go to collaborate. Collaborate was our window share feature prior to having the cloud. But it serves a great purpose. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard, and I'm going to come over to the multi-strategy. I'm going to go over to strategies. I'm going to hover over new strategy, and I'm going to select collaborate. Just going to paste it in here. So now if I do the same thing, you're going to see that I have Mighty Mouse in here. I could do one over here. Let's create a new strategy. I'll go to configure. Instead of doing it from scratch, I'll just grab something here, turbo brakes, and hit OK. So now I've got a couple different strategies, and you can customize it here. You customize with colors, and yeah, I really love the multi-strategy. It allows you to do a couple things that are really neat. Aside from being able to save a lot of real estate, this strategy name right here allows you to get really custom with it. The strategy name is just really the window name. So if I go into strategy, say Mighty Mouse, configure. This is where I can call it something, you know, special. So I can say anything I want right here. This is a so it can be your messaging. You know, it doesn't have to be a strategy. It could be your messaging, and so it's a really customized way to approach setting up your layout. All right, guys, just looking for some additional questions here. So Joe, does Holly have a voice? Well, I mean, we do have a synthetic voice attached so that you can hear her calling out the stock recommendations as they happen in real time. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but that is available. Brokerage firm is Interactive Brokers that we're working with very closely right now. And we do have plans for additional ones. It's a slower process. One of the reasons is we want to make sure that we've completed the functionality on Brokerage Plus, at least to a benchmark level that we're all very satisfied with before we start bringing in other connectivity points. Yeah, so Anthony, I always recommend saving it to the cloud. You can always have your main default layout saved locally. You can save anything locally. But by saving it to the cloud allows you to move computers. You know, if you had a hard drive problem, you'd lose it. It's just a little bit more convenient, I think. I'm not sure I understand your question, Joe. Yeah, so let me show you how to create a price alert. Yeah, so to create a price alert, the threshold line that we were talking about, let's take this example right here, ions. And let's just say if this thing makes a new high, I want to be alerted to it. So I'm just going to right click. It knows the price point that I clicked at. If I want to change that later, I can do it. I can change it here. You know, if I just wanted to make it an even 62, I can put a note in here. If I hit save, there it is. And so when that stock, I can change symbols, come back to it. It doesn't really matter. When this stock crosses this threshold right here, I'm going to get a pop-up window, and it'll look something like my price alert window, which is over here, and it's going to give me a yellow highlight, kind of like what's going on here with the surfing. It's going to give me a yellow highlight. I'm going to know that that's the symbol that came in. You can set up an audible trigger to it, either a beep or a voice alert to it. You can have it pop up, and we're going to be bringing some other, this is a part where we're going to be bringing some other notification techniques into it, notifying you via mobile or via other applications. So yeah, setting up these price alerts, super easy. If I want to move that to a different point, I can do that and just set it up. And it's right here. So you have the ability through this price alert window to have a variety of different filtering set up. Maybe I just want to look at what's working. These are just stocks that are working right now. Which ones have been triggered? This is probably a better way to look at it. Just the stocks that have been triggered. You don't really care about what you set. And then we keep track, you know, since the triggered, so you can kind of keep track of how successful your ideas were from that trigger point. You know, have I been profitable since those alerts were generated? And in this particular case, it looks like I have been. I don't set the price alerts from that perspective, so I don't really look at that, but it's another valuable component if you do. Yeah, there are a couple things I'm going to be adding here to the right click. I want to be able to modify. I want to be able to delete. And like you said in your note, you can just delete it with the delete key. But we're going to be adding a few more intuitive menu items there as well. Yeah, so Anthony, external linking. Let me see if I can give you a quick demonstration, and then we're gonna call it a day. Actually, it's not called Realtic anymore. It's called Easy. So let me bring in this program here, and I'll show you how to set it up. So this is Easy EMS. This is the old Realtic application. Pretty nice charting tool. Make sure we have data. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's go to Tools, External Linking. I'm going to add a link. This part gets confusing to people. I'm going to move my mouse. It's already messed up because I need this window right here. So I'm going to move it down. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to move my mouse over to this field right here, and I'm going to press the Shift key, and I'm going to release it. So I'm going to do it right now. And what that did is that created a link between that window here. So now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to select, is there a Realtic? Realtic. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to close it. So now, just imagine this had your level 2, it had your order entry panel, had all of that. Now I could just go ahead and click on a symbol. It updates my brokerage application. Maybe I've got news in that as well. I can get that extra information before making that decision. Yeah, external linking is pretty powerful. It really is. And it works with about 90% of the trading applications out there. If you have a hard time linking it to yours, just send a message to our support and we can do what we can to get you set up there. All right, guys, let me bring back the presentation and wrap it up. So next month, about a month from tomorrow, we're going to be holding, this is our 3rd annual summit, could be our 4th, but I think it's our 3rd annual summit. It's going to be atop the Symphony Towers. Really great time. We've got some really great speakers there. We are going to live stream it, so if you're unable to make it in person, please join us online. These are the links to get there, TradeIdeas.com/live stream. If you want to sign up for it, the summit, and attend, you can use that link right there, /summit. Folks, we are a software as a service subscription. This is the rate broken down by the day. It's a monthly rate that you would pay, or a yearly rate, but this is how we're breaking it down. We give you a bit of a discount if you pay for the year up front. We're offering you a 15% discount from joining us in this webinar today. Win with TI, all capital letters. It'll be 15% off either your month or your year, whatever you decide to do. Folks, please join us in our trading room. Trading room, you get there by going to our website and going to trading room. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to be a subscriber, a member. You can just see how professional users are using our technology in real time. They're sharing their desktop. There's full audio. I really encourage you guys to take a look. And what just popped up, the ebook series right here. So we're offering a few ebooks to take a look at, TradeIdeas.com/setup. So feel free to download those bits of information. We do a podcast every Friday. It's usually Dan and Jamie. They take a very non-standard approach to talking about our technology. It's a little bit more entertaining than probably the webinar today. So I encourage you to take a listen to that as well. We're reachable via social media, Twitter, Facebook, via phone. The best way, however, to get a hold of us will be through email, info@trade-ideas.com. Hi guys, I hope I was able to get to most of your questions. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Shoot me a personal email at brad@trade-ideas.com and I'll get that answered out to you. So thank you guys. Thank you, Stephen, Mike, appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Scott, please help me if I forgot anything.
I think you got it. Everyone keep an eye out for the email from GoToWebinar tomorrow with a link to the replay. And thanks all for attending. Thanks, Brad.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Scott.